Okay, first of all, again, thank you so much for all the incredible women who come on every single day. As I always say, every single day, I can't help myself to teach us and to share with us and to learn with us and to help us grow. Thank you to this incredible group that has grown unbelievably. And as we're coming to a break, we have been doing this for over a year. So it is really quite astounding. And on that, I would like to introduce, I feel honored and privileged to introduce Mrs. Esther Wien. She's an internationally recognized educator and lecturer for over 35 years. In addition to teaching ongoing courses to women online and in many different venues. She is known for teaching many different Judaic study subjects on a conceptually advanced level, appropriate for students with all levels of education. Esther has recently developed a groundbreaking course on the foundations of Judaism entitled Judaism Take Two. This course illuminates our spiritual anatomy and physiology. It will breathe new life and understanding into one's personal spiritual identity. I'm sure that Esther will share that with me afterwards on how to access that course, and I can share it with our groups. So I feel very privileged and honored. Thank you so much, Esther, for coming on. And thank you. I think it was Sarah Waller who did this for us. So thank you so much. I'm going to take myself off and go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I have a question for you guys. I see lots of names, and I see my friend Rochi and my friend Sigalit. But if you could turn on, hi, now I see some of you. If you could turn on your videos, because it's kind of hard to talk to a bunch of names. Hi, Huditzara. So hi, my name is Esther Wien, and we're going to spend the next half hour learning some ideas that are going to hopefully expand our self-concept. All right. The goal of today's class is to come into Rosh Hashanah with some new ideas. And I want to invite you all to give yourselves permission to consider new ways of thinking about your relationship with Hashem and new ways of thinking about Rosh Hashanah. And in order to begin the process of expanding our understanding and our experience of Rosh Hashanah, I want to ask you to answer two questions, okay? Honestly, nobody's going to see your answers, so be brutally honest. First of all, what do you think and feel when you encounter and you know we're about to embark upon the Yamim Noraim, or Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment? What does that mean to you? How do you perceive judgment? What is your definition of din? Yom Hadin. Today's class is really going to be called Din and Sin. Okay? How do you define din? What is Yom Hadin? What do you think when you hear the idea that Hashem is putting all our mitzvahs on one side of the scale and all our averos and judging? What do you think of, and how do you feel when you hear that we're trying to get Hashem to arise from the throne of Din and sit on the throne of Rachamim? Okay? What do the words Hayom Haras Olam mean? Today is the day the world was conceived. We're women. We know what conception is. But really, what is your feeling when you hear Yom Hadin? When you go into Rosh Hashanah, do you go in with what? What's the sense inside of you? Would you just like to get it over with already? And it's a huge burden. Is it something overwhelming? Right? Is it something joyous? What is it? These are the questions we're going to try to answer. Okay? Our goal today is to have definitions for Hayom Haras Olam. Today the world was conceived. Din, Yom Hadin, Rachamim. What is the kisei of Hashem? And what is the crown of Hashem? When you say Tamlichuni Aleichem, crown me above you. Okay. So this course that we are still developing, called Judaism Take Two, starts out in the early stages of it with the following exercise. Some of you know this, Some of you, this will be the first time you're being challenged to think about it, okay? I'd like you to try to depict your relationship with Hashem on a paper. Meaning, I'd like you to take out a paper and using circles, okay, I want you to draw your relationship with Hashem. Where would you put Hashem and where would you put yourself on the paper when you think about your relationship with Hashem? Okay, now there's a few answers to this. All right, I want you to think about that. Where do you draw Hashem and where do you draw yourself? This is exercise number 1, a self-assessment. How do we see ourselves in relation to Hashem? And based on your drawing, explain din, judgment. That's the first challenge. All righty. Now, this could be interactive. You could put it in the chat. All right. How do you draw it? Or you can unmute yourself. I'm happy to do that, or raise your hand, whatever. I don't know the Yehudis. You could organize this, or put it in the chat. So some of you are writing, I'm nervous, it's Judgment Day. Okay, but tell me about the circles. How are you drawing the circles?
I'm a small circle, and Hashem is a huge circle over on the left.
Okay, who's speaking? Naomi?
Oh, no, Chaya Rosenberg.
Okay, so let me ask you, I have to be honest with you. Oh, a large percentage of people, when they do their exercise, draw it like that. All right, now let's interview the little circle for a second. How do you feel, little circle? Describe yourself. What's your self-concept?
I'm just this little small person.
Little and small. What else? What are some of the feelings of that little small person? What's the self-concept?
Loved. I feel loved.
Okay. Okay, so somebody has a large circle in the middle, and I'm a little circle trying to get in. Okay, draw yourself and draw Hashem using circles. Where do you put yourself in relationship to Hashem? So one person said, and this is the most common answer, big circle somewhere on top, little circle somewhere on the bottom. My question is, we're interviewing the little circle. How do you feel? What's your self-concept?
My little circle is very close to Hashem. It's just below it, but close because I am close to Hashem. I'm just not a part of Him.
So how do you feel? What's your feeling being that little circle? What's your emotional, where are you at in your head? What is din?
I feel connected.
What is midas hadin? What is din? What is yom hadin? What's happening?
Judged.
You're being judged by, the big circle is judging you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I see Eliza Cohn, learner. I'm a circle in the center. Shem is a bigger circle. Now, there are the other answers. One is that Hashem is the whole paper and I'm in the middle. And one is that I'm the whole paper and Hashem is in the middle. But what I want to do is talk about the two circles. I want to clarify in the most urgent way, okay, that any depiction of our relationship with Hashem that involves two separate circles, I don't care how close they are, is a criminal misrepresentation of Judaism. In other words, you're not doing it on purpose, but this is sometimes how we view ourselves because of what we're talking. It's really avodah zarah. It must be immediately eliminated from your repertoire of thinking, because we have a principle. We have many, many principles. We have the Ikrim. We have the famous idea that you all know, Ein od milvado. There is nothing but a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It is a violation of Rambam's first 5 Ikrim to say that there's Hashem and something else outside of Hashem, because that would mean that Hashem is limited and there's other stuff. There is nothing outside of Hashem. So anyone who, and this is common, drew Hashem and someone and another circle, start over. Now let's do it again.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Or no, you can finish.
Let's finish. Let's take questions at the end.
Yeah,
Now
let's leave the questions to the end.
we have the principle Einod Milvado. So the entire paper has to be Hashem. And obviously, if there's nothing but Hashem, and there can be nothing outside of Hashem, and that's the most foundational principle of Judaism. There's no alternative. There's no negotiating. That is the most foundational principle of Judaism. Okay, it's Rambam's first sikher. Then we have to be somewhere within it. Now, some people wrote Hashem is the big circle, and I'm within it. Some people wrote I am the big circle, and Hashem is within it, and there's validity to it too. But let's do Hashem is the big circle, and I'm within it. So if you've heard anything from me, and if not, here's the big idea, the basic construct. If you think about this, do you have in your experience, okay, any familiarity with a relationship in which someone literally exists within someone else's existence? And of course we all do. What's that?
Pregnancy, a woman.
Mother and the fetus.
Right. Now, what is Rosh Hashanah? Listen carefully. Hayom Haras Olam. Today is the day where Kadosh Baruch Hu brings man into existence. It's the anniversary of the creation of man. It is the day Hashem became pregnant. What that means is that our relationship with Hashem must be imagined, must be understood. The construct that we need to work with, and this is a Kabbalistic construct. This is a Kabbalistic mashal. It is the mashal that the Mekubalim used to explain what's called the Midah of Malchus, but this is not mine. This is the real mashal, that we exist within the greater existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? What that means, fundamental, and it's really going to force us to reevaluate the concept of din. Okay? That there is no truth to a big boss in the sky scrutinizing a little circle out there and saying, oh, you're not keeping me happy enough. You're not doing things right enough. You know, I'm the big boss. You know, I control everything. You know, I am everything. You know that you're just vulnerable and helpless and completely at my mercy. And therefore, you better beg, cry, and get down on your hands and knees and apologize because you didn't make me happy. And that's not a very good position to be in. Any such concept of din has no place in Judaism because there's no separate circles. So once we know that we exist within the existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to redefine din. And we have to ask a very important question. So who are we and what's our job? Who are we and what's our job? So number one, to answer the question of who we are, and with the fetus in the womb, here are the words, and you're going to have to process them for a while, work with them. We are participants in Hashem's existence. Like a baby is participating in the mother's existence. Rambam says in Hilchos Yisodei Torah, Hashem knows us because he knows himself. Okay? Once we have this construct in our head, that this is the relationship, the next question comes in and says, okay, what do we do and what is din? And really, what is tefillah? You see, when you have the two circles, tefillah makes a lot of sense. Hey, it's basically, let's make a deal. You know, I'll do these things. Could you please give me these things? I have needs. I'm helpless. I'm vulnerable. I know what makes you happy, the mitzvah. So let's make a deal. Okay. But once you're inside, what are you supposed to do with tefillah? What's tefillah? What's the scale? What's Yom Hadin? What's Rachamim? Okay. Well, we have a clue. Rachamim, the root of the word is Rechem, womb. All right, so what's din? So now we're going to go into a sophisticated understanding of din and sin. Being that we exist within the greater existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and yes, we don't automatically realize it, just like the fetus cannot automatically see that it's inside the mother because there is a mechitza, there's a barrier, which is the uterine wall. The mashal is the limits of our 5 physical senses do not allow us to apprehend the metaphysical, the spiritual. So we could be very much part of something, but not see it with our eyes, okay, or hear it with our ears. Now, what does that mean? What's the implication of this? Now, when we say that we're part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all right, we also talk about Hashem, Parshas Perek Aleph and Bereshis, as creator. So if I'm an architect and I design 100 different houses, I say, I created these things. They came out, they're my brainchild. I created them. Really, when we use the word creation, aren't we saying, this is my self-expression? This is how I think. This is my particular specific angle, how I see things. This is what I bring to the equation, to the conversation in the world. Aren't we saying this is my self-expression? If we are part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, if the fetus is in the mother, you know what the fetus really is? It's an expression. We'll add the father and the mother. It's a part of the parent's self-expression. Really, when a baby is being formed, it is truly the mother and the father's expressing their actual DNA and concretizing it into real life. It is self-expression. So we exist. Here are new words. And again, I invite you to consider, to add layers to your understanding of yourself, your self-concept. We are participants in Hashem's self-expression. But what does that mean? What do we do? Well, what's the great gift of life is that the human being, unlike nature, which is just the concretization of God's divine thought, okay, of Hashem's mind, which concretizes into all of nature as we know it, and is actually the concretization of Hashem's self-expression. The human being is unique in that we are Tzelem Elokim, which means we also can choose, like Hashem, to express ourselves. And that leaves room. That leaves room for us to sin. What is sin? Sin is to misidentify ourselves, to miss the mark, right? Lahachtia, you know this. Lahachtia et hamatara, to like have your focus on the, off. We can misidentify ourselves. We can look at ourselves as human beings without the realization that we're part of the greater self-expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without understanding that our individuality is given to us to put into service of Hashem's self-expression, meaning everybody's different and everybody is meant to embrace their unique abilities. If you're a math person, study math. If you're a musical person, do music. If you're emotionally intelligent, do emotional intelligence. Learn about those things. And then do what with it? Take your individuality, and that being that you're already part of something greater than yourself, channel what you're part of. In other words, let's give a simple example, chesed. Hashem brought everything into existence as part of his own existence. Another way of saying it, Hashem is pregnant, Hayom Harasalam. Hashem made space in his own existence for us to participate in it. So what do? We take our individuality and our ability to choose how we're going to express ourselves. And we link it up, we bring it in sync with our understanding that we're part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So let's say chesed. We want to channel Hashem's chesed. Somebody builds bridges in Africa, and somebody tutors math, and somebody cooks for the sick. Doesn't matter. You bring yourself to it. By the way, you don't need to find your tafkid. It makes everybody stressed out. Your tafkid is to bring yourself and your self-expression in line with Hashem's self-expression. That's what it is. And the Torah and the mitzvahs guide you on how to identify yourself correctly. The big sin is misidentifying who we are and thinking that we're just physical creatures outside God, helpless, needy, vulnerable creatures, trying to survive, trying to get our needs met, and trying to keep God happy so that will work. Okay, so we'll get our needs met. And that God is scrutinizing us and saying, hey, you're not doing a good enough job. So what is din? Here's the new definition of din. If everything is an expression of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, you know what that means? It means that nature, as it was designed to function, and the pinnacle of nature, which is the human being, and the human being which has within themselves the most concretized version of Hashem's self-expression, the most concentrated, purest form of Hashem's self-expression is the person, because we also get to choose how to express ourselves, which is not what nature does, not found in the rest of nature. Okay, so that means that everything that exists, if it's an expression of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, it must be the way it is. It means that nature itself reveals a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that the systems of nature that a Kadosh Baruch Hu put into place are God's self-expression. Well, if there's only a Kadosh Baruch Hu and everything as it was designed to function, when it functions as it was designed, which is called singing Shira, by the way, it functions and reveals and helps us discover more and more and more about this great truth of that we are part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know what that means? That you cannot tamper with the system that Hashem designed, because it can't be otherwise. It only works a certain way because it's Hashem's self-expression. Let's give examples, okay? Let's give examples in nature. We know that nature, okay, works a certain way. And if we tamper with it, all right, if we tamper with it, it will malfunction and we will suffer. Example, in math and physics, there's a fact. It's 2 + 2 is 4. If we tamper with that and pretend it's 2 + 2 is 5, because, 2 + 2 and 4 doesn't emotionally speak to me. So for me, it's 2 + 2 is 5. That's my reality. And then you build a bridge on 2 + 2 and 5. The bridge will collapse and everybody will die. That's not a punishment. That's called tampering with the system. And then the system doesn't work. And then there's consequences. Okay, for example, in health, if we don't appreciate how the body works and what the nutrients the body needs, and we poison our body with substances, all right, that the body can't handle, or lack of moderation in a way the body can't handle, okay, we will ensure that the body will be diseased. It's not a punishment. You cannot tamper with the way things are. There's a way they work. There's a little wiggle room. The body will take a bunch of abuse, but eventually it'll break down. Okay, here's the most important thing. The most important thing of all. That's in human nature. And this is what we cannot ever tamper with. And if we do, there will be malfunction and so much destruction. Okay. And what I'm trying to say here is, din isn't God punishing you for not being obedient. Din is that Hashem says, you need to know you're part of my self-expression, which works a certain way. And you cannot tamper with it, okay, kind of like without consequence, because it works a certain way. And the reason it works a certain way is because it's all designed to help you discover who you are and what you're part of. So you can't really take liberties with it too much, because if you do, it will malfunction. And that's called din, okay? So let's give an example in terms of the human being. Perek Aleph from Bereshis, Hashem defines the human being as a tselem Elokim. And what that means is, just like Hashem chooses how to express himself, the most basic drive in a human being, the most basic need, more than oxygen, more than life itself, life isn't worth living without this, is the freedom and the dignity to express themselves and have themselves be valued. If we tamper with that din, that non-negotiable design of a human being, and we exploit people, devalue them, dehumanize them, abuse them emotionally, psychologically, physically, okay, they will malfunction. And the world around them will malfunction. And what they do will cause destruction to themselves and everybody else around them. There are 35,000 rehabs in this country right now and growing every day. And every single person in them is there because they're not functioning. And the reason they're not functioning is somehow their tselem Elokim was violated. And they feel horrible about themselves. And in order to avoid those horrible feelings, they get addicted to substances and they do terrible things to themselves. And that's why they're there. You cannot tamper with the way Hashem designed the world. When we do, it doesn't work. That is called Midas Hadin. The goal of Rosh Hashanah, here we go. And this is a lot of ideas in a very short time. As Yom Hadin, Hashem getting off the Kisei Hadin, going on the Kisei HaRachamim. Yeah, the day Hashem is pregnant with us, okay? Well, since it cannot be God scrutinizing us and saying, hey, you weren't obedient, because by the way, does a religion make sense that God created everybody so that he could boss them around and punish them? The whole thing makes no sense. And besides, who wants to be part of a religion like that? And also, who wants a God concept like that? It's horrible. So in other words, we're part of Hashem's existence. And you know what our job is? You know what our job in Rosh Hashanah is? To self-reflect. Lehitpalel is reflexive. It means to self-reflect. The job in Rosh Hashanah is to self-reflect and say, how much is my self-concept in sync with this reality? How much do I see myself as part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's existence, channeling it, And how much have I been out of sync with the system? And therefore, how do I see myself? Have I brought unnecessary unhappiness and stress and problems to myself because I'm living with a misidentification of who I am? I'm thinking that I'm a little circle and I need to make sure to keep everybody happy and do all the things and check off the checklist. And it's a huge burden, but I'm glad when I get it done. And if I do all those things, then maybe I won't have too much pain and I'll get through life without too much trouble, maybe. And I'm busy basically keeping Hashem happy. And how much am I totally not aware of the fact that I'm part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu system, and really what my job is to accept that and get comfortable with it and appreciate that the Torah and the mitzvahs help us live in sync with how the system really is supposed to operate. And when we talk about the scale, well, you know what's happening here? Since don't forget, Hashem's not outside of us. We're asking ourselves, how are we doing? Aware are we of who we are? And the scale, remember, you don't say one word of Vidoy in Rosh Hashanah. The scale is, that whole image is that Rambam talks about in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Tshuva. The whole image is to help us self-reflect and ask ourselves the following question. What am I more? What's my identity? What's my self-concept in real life? I do a lot of things that are mitzvahs. And then I do a lot of things because honestly, I forget that who I am, and I get into that fear-driven, what I call survival mode, which is basically my determination to get my needs met somehow or another. And therefore I do the things I want to do, I need to do, that work for me because I need to get my needs met. And I forget that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides for my needs. There's a yashar, simple, natural way to do things. And we ask ourselves the scale, what am I more? So when we say that Hashem gets off the Kisei Din and goes into the Kisei Rachamim, it means that, okay, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants most of all, we say, Zachreinu l'chaim. Listen to this. Melech chafetz b'chaim. You, Hashem, want us to be alive. Two things here. Why does Hashem want us to be alive? Because we're part of him. Why does the mother want the fetus to be healthy? Because it's her. It's her. It's her. Of course she wants. And what does to be alive mean? To live in true awareness of who we are and our context. We need context. We have to understand ourselves in context of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we're part of it. So we say, Zachreinu l'chaim, melech chafetz, so you want life. And you want to write us in the book of life, Lemancha, for your sake, because we're part of you. Of course you want us to live up to the purpose we were created for, which is to be aware that we're part of you and channel that. It's all, you want that. You want that more than we even know we want it. So when we become aware on Rosh Hashanah, that we exist as participants, we say it every time with the shofar, Hayom Haras Olam, today's the day that Hashem conceived, the world came into existence as part of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hashem was, so to speak, pregnant with the world, okay? We say, Kodesh Baruch Hu, we get it. We recommit to this identification and all the ramifications of it and how much easier it makes life. It's not your job to fix God's world. Lo alacham l'chal igmor. It's not your job to make sure that everything works out a certain way. You're part of a much bigger story. It's just your job to opt in and channel when you have an opportunity to. In other words, this is what Mordechai said to Esther. Listen, Hashem's going to save the Jews anyway, right? There's a big plan underway here. But you're right now in a situation where you can be the one through whom it unfolds. You want in or you want out. If you want in, you're participating with God. If you want out, okay, you're lost. You're lost. That's the whole thing. The whole awareness is who we are. Do we get it? Do we understand who we are? Is our self-concept correct? Do we understand that that we're part of Hashem's self-expression and there's a system, and Torah and mitzvahs help us live in sync with the system, and we forget that and we go into what I call survivor mode, and we just we start doing and we start behaving in a way that's basically fear-driven, okay? And then on Rosh Hashanah we reassess ourselves and we say, you know what, we get it. Remember who we are. So Hashem, so to speak, arises from the throne of Din and sits on the throne of Rachamim. Rachamim is Rechem. And you know what else is the root of Rechem? In the same letters can be spelled Machar, tomorrow. Hashem gives us another chance. Okay, you get it now. Now you know who you are and what you're supposed to do with your individuality and your desire for self-expression. You know you're supposed to be channeling what you're really part of. So you get another day, Machar. Okay? This is what it means. And I want to end with one idea. Okay? Tamlichuni Alechem, crown me. Again, there's no two circles. So what does it mean? You know, very interesting. In crowning a king, think about it. The king is about to be crowned. So how many individuals do you need for that to happen? So minimally, two. Minimally, two. The king and the person crowning it. When it says crown me, you know what that means? It means that we, each one of us individually, all right, we hold Hashem's crown in our hands. You know what that means? Think about the crown, kavod. The crown is like the kavod of the king. What is kavod? Hashem created a bizarre, almost literally bizarre phenomenon. It's called kavod. What is kavod? How many people does kavod require? Clearly two. If you beg a person to give you kavod, it's not kavod. If you threaten a person by holding a gun to their head to give you kavod, it's not kavod. If you bribe a person and pay them a lot of money to give you kavod, it's not kavod. Kavod cannot be coerced. If it's coerced, it's not kavod. So Kadosh Baruch Hu said, this awareness that you're part of me and what that means, I can't coerce that. You are holding the crown. It's in your hands to become aware of who you are and what you're part of. And become not just in awe of it, but to become overjoyed with the opportunity and the privilege in even through bitter situations. It doesn't just have to be sweet to be able to do this job. You do it in very bitter situations too. Like they say, Ani Manamin on the way to the gas chambers. Hashem says, you have to find it within yourself. This is your opportunity in Rosh Hashanah to become aware of who you are and what you're part of and what that means, what a privilege that is and how important it is for the world. And when you become aware, then you give me kavod. Then it from you, a free will gesture of a person who can choose like God himself, how to express himself and what their identity is. When you choose to identify yourself correctly and become aware of what you're part of and be grateful for it and recommit to it, that's called giving kavod to Hashem or crowning Hashem. So we learned a few ideas. We learned what din is. Din is the non-negotiable reality that you cannot tamper with too much before it malfunctions. And our question on Rosh Hashanah is, how much are we in sync with that? How much do we just opt in, get in sync with it, and let things flow? All right. So what is din? What is rachamim? Rachamim is the rechem. It's machar. Okay, tomorrow. What is this kisei, that there's no real throne? It means that a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that our perception is changing, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because we recommit to din, that's why Hashem gives us tomorrow, because we understand we're in the womb. That's why Hashem gives us rachamim, and then we crown Hashem. These are just some of the main ideas of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, you might have questions. I'm happy to take questions. You may also reach out to me directly. I'm going to give you my email. All right, and you can ask me some questions. I'll put it right here in the chat. Well, how do I do that? Now I'm on direct message. How do I avoid that? How do I, hold on. Send chat to everyone. Hold on. This is my email. I'm very happy to take questions.